Some relationships run as deep as blood. For such, one may find themselves going over and beyond the normal boundaries of friendship to do things others may consider overboard. Such was the relationship between me and my friend Larai. The story I'm telling is about her. My name is Nike. Larai and I were friends for almost 40 years before she passed on 3 years ago. I knew her since we were both about 5 years old when she moved to the house next door on the street where I grew up. She was my longest friend and my best friend, even though her life was so different from mine. She fought so many battles in her lifetime, and I really hoped she would have some respite at some point. Larai, as I fondly called my friend, was the only child of her parents, and when they became our neighbors, their family became close to ours within a short time. Since Larai was my age, her parents put her in the same school as me, and so we went to school together every day, usually dropped by my mother on her way to work. My mom would pick us and my two siblings in the afternoons too. We had a living help, an elderly woman, and Larai would often just stay in our house till evening before going home. Things changed suddenly for her when her mother died in an accident when she was traveling to the north from Lagos to see her parents. Larai was 7 at the time. It was such a shock for every one of us, but of course, mostly for Larai and her father. The man was deeply affected by his wife's death, and as he struggled to cope, the lack of care became apparent on Larai. My mother tried to fill the gap as much as she could, but there was a limit to what she could do. Barely a year after losing her mother, Larai's father remarried. The new wife was stern and mean towards Larai. Almost immediately she moved in, she stopped her from coming to our house so often, and not long after, she changed her school to one of the cheaper ones in the area. I still went over to see her, especially at weekends, and she stole chances to come over to our house, or we spoke through the fence. Matters took a turn for the worse when Larry's dad became ill and died when she was 14. By then, her stepmother had 2 children of her own. She did not move from the house, but she completely stopped Larry's education because, according to her, she could not afford it. When my parents heard, they offered to pay her fees for her to finish secondary school since she was in SS1. But her stepmother refused because she needed her to help with the little children. Larai became a maid to her stepmother. It was so pathetic to watch, and I felt so helpless and angry. Many times, I would pass food to her through the fence when she was hungry and her stepmother did not give her food. They eventually left the area when Larai was 17. There were no mobile phones at the time, so there was no way to reach her for a long time. The next time I saw her was when we were 22. She found her way to our house. I was so happy that day. In fact, everyone was happy to see her. She was pregnant. It was not showing yet, but she told me that she ran away from home about 2 years prior and tried to make a life for herself on the streets. I asked why she did not come to us, and she said she did not want to burden anyone, so she waited until she was a bit settled. She managed by buying and selling second-hand clothes. She met the father of her unborn child about a year before, and he promised her marriage, so she moved in with him. And now she was 3 months pregnant. She was in somewhat high spirits. as she had accepted her fate. She said she would make the best of things as they were. My mother offered her money, but she would not take it. That was how I reconnected with her, and we saw each other frequently from then on. I got to know where she lived. It was in a slummy area, not dirty, but very crowded. She stayed in a room and parlor apartment with the father of her child. I was there when she had her child, a boy, and then a girl just under 2 years later. She strove hard to take care of her kids because she wanted to give them a good life. Their father could not be bothered about that, and he gave her whatever little he could, so Larry slugged it out mostly on her own. Eventually, she left and moved to a slightly better area. He was not interested in marriage, and their visions for life were very different. I was 28 when I got married. I was working with a marketing firm, and Larry and I kept our friendship going over the years. I had 4 children, including a set of twins. It was in the year we turned 38 that Larry was diagnosed with cancer, and she died within 6 months. Her only request was that I take care of her kids and not let them suffer. Throughout our years of friendship and through all her struggles, Larry hardly asked me for anything. And even when I offered, she would jokingly turn me down. Her nickname for me was Rich Auntie. I cried so much when she died. Her son was in SS2 and her daughter was in JS3. She had worked so hard to bring them to this point, and now she would not see them finish and make her proud. It was devastating. I spoke to my husband, and he graciously agreed that we could take the children in. My parents and siblings offered to support us financially too, and so the children became a part of our family. They are a great addition to us and role models for our own children too. I am so glad that I can do something for my friend. She fought well, and I am honored to be a part of her victory in my own way. Please share your thoughts about Larry's touching story in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and to turn on that notification bell so you never miss any of my videos.